Lordy, the music taken forever. Hello, everybody. I am once again your host, Ben, aka the Fusebox, and I've got a bit of a special Fusebox engaged today. Got a new guest to the channel. Gonna be some good stuff. This is Mads Momma Bear, an artist that is on her way up in YouTube. What is going on?
Hey, thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. So yeah, we're just kind of doing a nice, chill, I would say fairly short stream today, Depends on how much energy we have, because we're not at 100% at the moment.
I will completely admit I am not a high energy person. Even though I do like a Saturday morning streams, everyone keeps saying it's so chill because I will never be that person that talks like really up and high energy and talk. No.
I put effort into trying.
I try. No, I keep getting told like I'm more on closer to the ASMR type side. So
Oh, nice.
I'm trying to lean into that.
I enjoy ASMR very much.
Some of it I do.
I don't think I have the ability to do that, but I can try. But yeah, I spotted you on Twitter and on YouTube. God, it's probably been like a couple months now that I first spotted you, and I was just interested in having you on the show. And maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Where to start? I've actually had my channel for quite some time now. I've been circling around in the various communities,
Nice.
for several years. Some groups that are no longer around type situations.
Oh boy.
Groups that started off with the right thought type idea. It's just, and then as groups get larger, the initial idea eventually just fades off, and everyone winds up going their own way.
I would say that is very true. Because when I first joined like the CG network and stuff, like it was very grassroots, and it seemed like everybody was kind of looking out for each other, and now everybody's kind of splintered off into their own little cliques.
Yeah, I was initially part of the fandom menace, so yeah. So same idea.
Go.
Started off with good intentions, and initially, and everyone, initially, much like Comicsgate, was looking out for each other, and then it turned into everyone's looking out for each other in the opposite meaning. So.
Yes. Very true. And like, I guess like for me, it's like I've always felt like I don't quite fit into one group or the other. I just kind of go with whoever's friendly.
Yeah. That's been a long-standing struggle of mine too.
Yeah, it's like, I was always into the idea of like, oh wow, like people creating their own comics and doing it like from the ground up and not relying on clout or anything like that. And and like people who have more notoriety kind of like looking out for new folks. But that's all kind of changed over the past couple years, especially like now, like over the last year, like everybody's launching a book now. Everybody and their mother is launching a book now because they learned how easy it can be. And so Now there's more people than I can count, and I'm too damn old.
Love that picture.
Which one, Agents or mine?
Yeah, Agent Zero's profile picture. That is phenomenal. It's
Nice.
like something like right out of Silverhawks or something. It's great.
Agent is actually going to be launching a book at some point, and he's going to be on the channel on Saturday.
Hey man, nothing wrong with being part of the everybody. I was, even in high school, I was never a clique person. I never understood that mentality.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's
Scratch.
The dog. I love it.
I like the name.
It's right up there with like that dog from Harry Potter, Fluffy, which is something I would totally do.
Hell yeah.
Name a giant three-headed dog, something like Fluffy. Totally.
I was kind of paying attention to the Fandom Menace stuff back in the day. I didn't quite know what it was all like. I just thought it was just literally people just talking about what's gone wrong with Star Wars. Really, I didn't know much. I didn't know about much else with it.
Initially, yeah, it was, what's gone wrong with Star Wars and respecting the original, the original lore of whatever your chosen fandom is. Because I admit I am a Star Wars noob at best.
Well,
but
I don't think that's a bad thing, because I am. No, I mean, like, I like Star Wars. I'm a fan, but I never got into all the EU stuff. Like, I know a bunch of people who like know it like the Bible, like inside and out, and I was just kind of like, yeah, I like the movies, and I like a couple of the video games.
I admit I never even played the video games. I was raised like Star Trek and more fantasy comic book type stuff. That's always more of my jam than Star Wars.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. And yeah, there's been an annoying trend in the recent years of people picking up an intellectual property and completely changing it from the inside out.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but
it would depend on like how it's approached. It would depend on like if it's ultimately in a direction that the fans by and large can agree with.
Like there was a couple of years ago an animated He-Man cartoon that was set in the future, and it got really good reviews. I admit I did not get a chance to watch that one because I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that came about the same time as the Masters of the Universe, where I am like the only one that actually liked it. At least it felt like that. I was hanging around a lot of negative people at the time.
Oh yeah, I tend to do that. It's kind of fun sometimes, but
it started getting really exhausting. I still love the people. It's just at the end of the day, I just want to have fun.
Oh, totally.
This is just entertainment.
Yeah, and I think like there comes a point where, like, especially lately, like I found like a lot of the YouTubers I like to watch, they tend to be very reactionary, and it's like the more I've been getting annoyed because I'm just kind of like, okay, well, like what about like creating something new
Mhm.
that, you know, it's like instead of just complaining about what sucks about the mainstream, why not make something to actually provide an alternative? And
Yeah.
that's pretty much the heart and soul of CG. Is that, you know, they didn't like the way mainstream comics were going, so it's like they decided to create a separate market. And, you know, but again, there are still folks who just, they lean way too heavily on reacting to whatever the mainstream's doing. And it's like, that's kind of, that's kind of counterintuitive. Because it's like, well, okay, well, you're giving them attention.
Yeah, that's how
like,
you get stuff like. I hate to bring this up, but you know the stuff like that, like the Velma show, which I really believe is 100% a troll job by Hollywood.
if it isn't, it's the most poorly thought out idea.
It really screams as something, and I don't know if this is the parent in me or the. I admit part of one of the things I've been known on Twitter for the longest time is I love to play with trolls. I love giving them a taste of their own medicine. So I you know, I kind of got like this troll sense type thing or whatever. You know, like instead of Spidey sense. It screams of a troll if you are doing this to intentionally piss people off and to get the hate views.
Yeah.
And it worked. It got like the highest rated, it got the highest viewed premiere in ages. And that was
Jesus.
strictly for hate views.
I think that's pretty much what She-Hulk did too.
Yeah.
Because She-Hulk at one point, like, they literally made internet trolls the villain of that series. They knew they were going to piss people off, and they thought that they could get ahead of it, which it kind of came off as very self-conscious. But yeah, I'm at the point where I'm like, well, I mean, I've been at the point where I'm like, I'm just really tired of them trying to resurrect old IPs. Just make new things. Try something new. It's very hit and miss, but I mean, it's like how much more can you pillage and farm from nostalgia?
I think there's always going to be like some things that are easily, you know, hit nostalgia wise. I mean, I'm a DC fan. Always will be a DC fan at heart. Like I love both. I love both DC and Marvel, but this one feels relevant because of everything that's going on in that community right now.
Yeah.
You know, the Trinity, Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, they're always going to be easy go-tos. Because they've been a part of, you know, global culture, you know, for God, longer than some of our parents have been alive.
Oh, definitely. And now I have to ask, since you're a DC fan, what do you think of the Zack Snyder things?
I'm actually I am connected with that community, the hashtag. You know, these sells JL to Netflix. I'm actually close friends with the guy with the two guys that started those two hashtags and that movement. And
Oh, wow.
honestly, I'm a big fan of it because that particular one, that is just a huge step in positivity. When we got hit with the news that they had let Henry Cavill go, so to speak,
Yeah.
and that when Henry Cavill posted up the tweet that saying that he was hanging up the cape for good. that hit everybody like a brick.
Hmm.
And my friend was like, I can't have this. We need there's got to be something. There's got to be some sort of positivity. This other thing that everyone's doing, it's not working. The fire, so and so. I don't want to bring too much attention to that. Negativity, you know. So he brought out this little ray of what was intended to be just a ray of positivity for our group, or our friend group. And it took off globally.
Oh, wow.
To the point where I think between the two hashtags, they're at like 300K. Forbes has talked about it 3 times, multiple sites have talked about it. Yeah, it's whether it does or doesn't at this point, it's brought hope to so many people that at the end of the day, like even myself, I was so ready to having to go back like what I was in high school, of being like a closet comic book fan, because there was going to be no positivity there. It was going to go back to, it really looked like it was going to go back to just the hate views, all of it's trash type stuff,
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not really a big fan of the Zack Snyder version of DC. I didn't like what he did with Superman. It was very dark and very bleak for me. And I didn't like how they jumped right to the death of Superman in like the second movie.
That did feel a little rushed. I know he was working on bringing this. His initial plans was bringing the story around to why he's that ray of hope, that as opposed to just jumping into it, initially at this. He's naturally a Boy Scout type person.
Yeah. But the thing is, like, as much as I didn't like the way they were written, I felt like Henry Cavill was a great casting choice for Superman. And I would have totally gotten into seeing, like, maybe a different screenwriter handle him as Superman. But, like, the fact that they just got rid of him, I'm like, I don't like that. Don't like it.
I love how, I do like how he approaches a lot of his stories. And how he looks at it almost from a different point of view. And I largely, attribute it to, because I refer to him greatly as an artist. Because he has a view on this stuff that is really unique when it comes to Hollywood. Because at this point, so many of these producers and directors have come out with almost the same story across the board, and it's tiring.
Yeah, that's the product of corporate filmmaking nowadays.
No.
It's literally like stories are now decided by a committee, and it's always just, well, what's hot on the internet? What sells? Okay, well, we're gonna do a bunch of that. Here's the pie chart. Do it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that Play-Doh Fun Factory filmmaking hasn't worked out so well for WD Studios.
Yeah, and also Marvel has gotten into that habit. Especially, it started to me. I started to kind of notice it during Phase 3. It was like, it just seemed like there was this formula that they were repeating with every movie instead of giving like a unique take for each different series of characters. Because it was like, there were things I liked in Phase 3, but like, I just noticed, like, it's like, okay, Guardians of the Galaxy did well, and that was a comedy. So now every Marvel thing has to have, like, big amounts of comedy. Like, I didn't like the fact that Ragnarok was a strict comedy. I didn't hate Ragnarok, but I would have preferred a little more of a serious tone.
I admit that's one director I struggle with at the best of days. I really don't like how he tackles movies, and even movies that he's not directly directing, it seems to be some sort of influence he has on these movies.
You talk
It,
about Taika Waititi?
yeah, you probably wouldn't want me saying what I normally call him online, which is Mama Susan would not approve of in the first 30 minutes.
I get it. I totally get it. Because
like there always seems to be like some sort of full tushy showing, and I'm not a fan of him, and I feel really bad for Star Wars fans, but he's your problem now.
Well, I mean, I stopped watching anything Star Wars after The Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see a point, because the heart and soul of the series was Luke Skywalker and his friends, and they were all pretty much completely destroyed in that movie.
No, I know. I've heard it over and over again to the point where I can almost picture the movie in my mind. I have not seen it. I'll be honest. I did watch the Rise of Fake Walker. I'm sorry. We all know what her last name actually is.
I mean, you're right. I mean, and also, like, I didn't bother watching that movie for multiple reasons, but I think the biggest thing was that I knew from the get-go it wasn't going to be a good movie, because, like, when you're making a trilogy, you treat the trilogy, like, if it's a trilogy that's supposed to be one cohesive big story, you treat it like movie 1 is act 1, movie 2 is act 2, movie 3 is act 3. And Johnson, when he did The Rise of Skywalker, he completely undercut that middle part where you're supposed to be building it up.
You're creating a semi-cohesive story.
Yeah, he cut off most of the plot lines that were set up in the first one. He let them fall flat.
The trilogy just kind of had this whole cohesion of, if you've ever listened to like a toddler or a really young child tell a story, it jumps like 500 degrees.
Yes.
And it was that same kind of storyline thinking of, first I played with Legos, and then we were watching Paw Patrol, and what are those marshmallows? Can I have a marshmallow? Focus. No, I won't lie. I laughed my way through Rise of Skywalker, because the whole thing was just, it was pretty much every iconic scene between George Lucas and Steven Spielberg movies put together with a loosely following script. Because I sat there watching the entire time going, Goonies, there's some Lord of the Rings, there's this. Everyone knows which scene when I say Goonies. She's holding that knife up and lining it up. I'm like, come on.
Well, yeah, it was that they were trying to do the work of 2 movies in one, and they had to keep it at a certain time, so they had to rush through it and throwing in just a simple, we got to get to the thing to get the other thing to get this thing.
And then my cat's noisy. I don't know if you guys can hear that.
A little bit.
I'm back on it.
Not a problem. It's what we do.
Yeah. Apparently, she's got to make her presence known even when I'm not on camera.
Hey,
Anyone who watches my videos will inevitably see some cat feet in the picture.
I mean, that's what the people come for. So
I won't lie. My one cat does have a fan base through the draw streams that I do on Sunday.
excellent. Now let's see, you are an artist.
Mhm.
Do you do like interior comic work, or is it just like stills or whatever comes into your mind?
I work mainly with watercolor at this point. Stills. I guess stills would be the right, just individual drawings.
Nice.
I went to an art high school, but I wound up. I stopped drawing for about 10 years there until in 2020 I met the man that eventually would be almost one of my best friends on here and on Twitter, and we kind of will I am his co-host on the Sunday streams, and he has full control over my channel too. I mean, we do actually give each other that kind of power.
Oh, nice.
And if you guys have not checked out his channel, that's Makani Draws. He is an absolute stunning artist, and I love to joke by calling him, an art pimp, because if you hang around him for any length of time, you would inevitably wind up drawing or doing some sort of artwork.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's something about his nature that he has so much passion for this that it's infective.
Nice.
And he was very proud when I finally got back into drawing, which is 100% him.
So did you went on a hiatus? Like, was it mainly family or?
Not so much family. My mom's always been a big supporter of the art. I mean, I got her into it back when I was in high school.
Oh.
But no, it's between adult life and really failed relationships. I found myself with no inspiration, and just life got so busy, so distracted. I stopped doing it.
Yeah. I have been there because I'm a writer primarily, and I've gone long periods of time in between writing things because I just don't feel inspired. But I've recently been getting a little bit of coaching, and one of the things I'm working on is trying to write even when I'm just not feeling it at all.
Yeah.
And it's not easy.
That's the one that fascinates me about him in particular. He seems to have that bottomless pit of inspiration, and I don't get it. It's fascinating, It's like for the writer's equivalent, watching Stephen King at work.
Oh, I don't like him.
I know, but you gotta respect the fact that the man can create a story out of anything.
Yeah.
And he's got such one of the largest libraries off the top of my head, just out of his career, because he has that ability to just crank out stories, and really blockbuster, fantastic stories.
That is true. I hate his Twitter life, but you know.
I rarely pay attention to most celebrities on Twitter. I learned that a long time ago. About following celebrities in their real life, because I was a Corey Feldman fan growing up.
Oh boy.
And then they had him on that one reality show where everybody's in the house, and I learned what a funny little bitch he was, and I'm like, oh my god, this broke my heart.
God.
I didn't even watch the whole series. I came into this one, and they had this. They had this woman laying really in the buff, covered in sushi, and he's like, well, I can't eat this sushi, I'm married. What?
It's
I respect your commitment, but really?
That's a very interesting.
And then
very
he started
interesting,
crying
specific.
about it, and I'm like, I no.
Jesus. Well, I've never been served food on people before, so. Although that sounds very interesting.
It wouldn't be my first choice of how to, having been a chef, I question how clean that surface is to put food on, but
well, as long as it's a lady, I'm fine.
Don't want to accidentally grab the wrong salmon roll.
I mean, I've done some freaky things in my life. But yeah. I'm just but are you doing so are you mainly just doing like drawings for yourself, or are you taking commissions, or?
I'm not taking commissions at this point. I'm not feeling that confident in my abilities. Suggestion, the one I did this past Sunday was a request from one of my friends online.
Oh, nice.
And that was I'm going to butcher the name, and I know I said it last Saturday as well, because I am not a Beyblade fan. Ruya and El Drago. And
yeah, I never knew any. I don't know anything about Beyblades.
Yeah, I had to Google the heck out of this character. I just knew when I put out because it started off as a Twitter thing, because I had complete artist block, zero inspiration what to do. So I decided to have fun, let it be a poll on Twitter, like what should I do? Which era should I grab from, and what's what the top suggestions? Which that was a fun experiment, but I'm not going to go back to that one again. The result of that poll wound up being a 90s era, and I wound up drawing Mark Anthony and Pussyfoot, which is from the Looney Tunes cartoon, which did have come out, and I only went with this one because it was out in the 90s, despite the fact that all of the stuff was the clips from the 40s and 50s, and something like 40s, 50s, 60s, that kind of stuff. But this it was the bulldog with the little black and white kitten. That was the one that got the highest votes. And I'm like, okay, sure. But my friend kept saying, "Oh, well, do Beyblade, do this guy." I'm like, okay, I will do this for you. But everyone said 90s, so. And it was really nice this past week watching people come in, they're like, oh my god, this is a blast from the past. I'm like, that's the stuff I want to see. Those are the reactions I like.
Hell yeah. Unfortunately, I think I'm too lazy to learn how to do art properly. I learned how to write. I'm like, I'm just sticking to that. I'll get the talented people to draw it.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't think that there is a proper way to do art. And anyone who says otherwise is just gatekeeping, to be honest. I mean, you go into any museum and you will see the wide variety in what has become art throughout, not only throughout the decades and all of that, but even to modern today. And that's one that will always affect me, because I was in grade 9 when I'm Canadian. This is going to be pivotal to the story.
I could kind of tell from the boots.
It's funny. I don't say boot. I actually have cousins that do, but I do. I was in grade 9 when the Canadian Museum of Art, or it was like one of those, bought this painting that was a red stripe for like a ridiculous sum of money. And all of my teachers, who were professional artists, were completely losing their mind about it. And they were right offended. And you know what? I get it, rightfully so. Because these are people that can do stunningly humbling, beautiful pieces of work that spent decades into their craft. And they bought for like $1 million or several $1 million something that you could do on a wall with painter's tape.
Yeah. Oh, Lord.
But that's abstract art. And that's one of those, if something like that can be considered high art, or even Picasso, his stuff. Picasso and what's that one that my sister likes? Dali. Their stuff makes no sense. They are, and no shame to their games. They are amazing artists, but their minds are.
I like sleek, attractive realism.
Actually, I'm not as much. Some of my favorite classic artists are actually from the Impressionist era, like Monet, like Van Gogh, and those are the ones that were doing against the grain art. Like when they were painting, and they were painting at the exact same time, and they had very different stories throughout their lifetime. And I will circle back to this. But at the time when they were doing their art, realism was the thing. That was the only thing that got recognition publicly. And that's why in his life, Van Gogh only ever sold one painting. The poor man spent his life being hated, being a joke, and never knew the impact that he would have on the world. The love that people would have for his art after his time.
Oh, Lordy.
Where Monet wound up becoming so successful that he was actually able to buy an elaborate mansion with these beautiful water gardens that you see so often in some of his iconic pieces now. And that's because he actually got together and found other impressionist artists, and they did a community.
Oh, damn. Well, it sounds more interesting coming from you.
Thank you. Yeah, so we can't do this stuff on our own.
I was never big on art history back in the day. I was always I was into good old cartoons and anime.
Honestly, I love it all. I am an insomniac by nature, so anyone who has struggled with that for any length of time, when you can't sleep for the life of you, you got to come up with something to keep your mind occupied.
Oh yeah.
Like really early in the days, it was like late night infomercials, but then I found books. Then I started researching stuff, and when the internet picked up, that made my life so much easier. But I've always found history fascinating. Knowing where we've all come from, type things.
Oh yeah, like I mostly got into history in terms of like things like the Roman Empire, and also I like religious history just because it's interesting to see the origins of different things and beliefs, and it's all way more complex than I ever imagined when I was younger.
I studied a lot of mythology, the various mythologies through when I was in high school. Yeah,
I love mythology. I friggin' love it.
which has led to very many interesting conversations online between fanboys who don't understand the difference between Marvel Thor and Norse Thor, and their respective hammers.
Oh, definitely. Although I do like Chris Hemsworth and his version of Mjolnir.
He is Chris Hemsworth is like Henry Cavill, one of those perfect for the role. I'm really glad that he's ready to step back from the more comedy side of Thor, and we can go back to seeing what we saw within like the first movie, where it was badass.
Yes, that was the thing. Like, I got really tired of the comedy aspect. Like, I was okay with Ragnarok at the time because it's like, I guess it was okay for me to see like, okay, let's have like a break in the formula. But then it's like, I didn't want that to become the new norm.
Yeah.
And
I could have done without Hulk, but I'll be honest.
I really would have liked it if they had done a different movie other than covering the events of Ragnarok. Because to me, Ragnarok should have been like the major dramatic point in that story. And the fact that they chose that to do their comedy, it's like,
And that's where I think that Marvel, and Marvel itself, not just, the particular studios, the MCU studios, that's where I think Marvel has struggled with across the board. Is they don't seem to get what should be one movie and what should be more of a planned out.
I would totally agree. And it's like they don't, and like I was saying earlier, they've gotten so formulaic. It's like they can never let certain dramatic beats resonate. Mm-hmm. They got to jump from that immediately to a cheap joke.
Yeah.
It's like, it's gotta be, no, like it's getting too heavy. We gotta be funny. We gotta be breaking the fourth wall, blah, blah, blah. It's like, stop.
I am hoping that they have taken some of the past lessons from their more failed movies as they bring the X-Men into the MCU. And I say this as an early X-Men fan. I have all of my Marvel cards from the 90s beside me still. And it's a thick binder. I've quite a few. You know,
Oh
like
yeah.
anyone who had any time in the 90s, you know, of course I watched the X-Men cartoon and every other superhero related or anything remotely animated at that point.
Oh yeah. I think. Well, I mean, I'm kind of checked out of the MCU now because when they started introducing the multiverse stuff, I'm like, okay, like I've never liked multiverse stuff.
Honestly, I'm excited for Kang.
Well,
I'll be honest. I am. And it's nice to say that. You know, I am the actor playing him is a phenomenal actor, and I'm excited to see them expand his range, or to play on his ability on the range he does have.
Okay. I mean, I'm not really a fan, but you know.
No, and no shame.
Yeah, I just like for me multiverse stuff, it tends to take away the significance of your characters. It's like, okay, we've got like these awesome heroes, but then it's like, oh, their decisions aren't super unique or whatever because there's an infinite number of them in different multiverses that did an infinite number of things. And it's like, well, oh shit, like anytime we lose a character, we can just pull another one out from the multiverse. And it's like your stakes are kind of gone at that point.
We'll see how they lean into the multiverse aspect.
I would not be surprised if they try to pull like another Iron Man and Captain America from the multiverse.
I don't know how that would go across.
Ooh, bless you.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I think they would do that if they get desperate.
No, because Robert Downey Jr. became so connected and iconic with the Iron Man Tony Stark role. Honestly, I think the idea of recasting that character, bringing somebody else in it, and I'm gonna say the same with Chris Evans. I think recasting that into a different role or a different actor would be very tricky.
Yeah.
And it probably will, and it has the potential to go across just as successfully as I expect the recasted Superman to go. And my heart goes out to whatever poor young actor gets that role. Because I fully expect that actor to get the Jake Lloyd treatment from the fans.
I think there would definitely be some people who would go hard, but I don't know. I think there's folks who would recognize like it's he's an actor. He has nothing to do with the decisions that were made. He's just taking the opportunity that's given to him, you know.
I can hope, but
yeah, I mean,
outrage.
Humanity hasn't exactly been as mature as I had hoped over the past few years, but you know.
Humanity has never been as mature as I had hoped. And outrage culture seems to be almost driven at this point. Both Twitter and YouTube, their algorithms seem to almost encourage it.
Oh, most definitely.
So a lot of people lean into that. People who are off camera on YouTube, like after the live button goes off, they're the sweetest people you will ever meet. and I'm not going to name names, but as soon as the camera goes on and they are recording or whatever, they are some of the most loudmouth, venom dripping people you know. And
Yeah.
the juxtaposition between who they are in reality and the character they play for the sake of YouTube is night and day. It's Jekyll and Hyde.
I can see that.
Like
I'm a
literally,
little
I
too
know
honest.
this one that's. I know this one, and I'm sure you'll have a good idea to who I'm talking about. But yeah, absolutely hate it in most communities. Very successful here on YouTube and on Twitter and in the various online communities because of the vitriol that he can drip. But like I said, absolute sweetheart teddy bear of a human being. Once you get him off camera.
I mean, that could apply to a lot of people I know, but you know.
Twitter definitely doesn't like him and bounced him a couple times.
But yeah, I totally get that. Like it's become kind of an addiction, I think.
It is.
And I've fallen for it before. Like, I'm not innocent. Like I get passionate about certain things, and I kind of run my mouth off a little too much at times. But
I had my moment. I had my moment last Sunday over the whole Velma thing, so I get it.
well, it's because like there's been this trend that I've just noticed. It's like a pattern of like getting people to write for certain shows or certain IPs that seem to just not like the material.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they want to change it to something they like, but that most people don't like because they like the continuity. And it's like, if you want to do your own thing, that's cool, but do that with your own characters and stuff. Don't.
Yeah, that one that comes to mind when it comes to that is that I am not Starfire thing.
Oh God.
I saw that as the trash it was when I first heard about it.
Yeah.
You know, before most people caught on, because one of the first things they put out was what the character's name was. You know, which is Mandy Starfire. And if I go back, I could probably even pull up the tweet where I'm like, you do know her name, Starfire's name. That's her whole name. That's not a last name, right? If anything, the character's name should be so-and-so Grayson.
Yes.
Because all of it, and I've actually got a whole video on Starfire. So I had just put that out, where breaking down like even her family, where they all have the Andor name to their name, and if anything, that the name would be Mandy Andor or whatever you want to do. And then the pictures came out, and that's what everybody jumped up. That's what everybody focused on.
Yeah.
I'm like, the stories. Can we focus on the story? The story's crap. Yes. You get y'all, and this is where my separation with the group started happening, was with a lot of the online groups, because everyone focused on the thing that I noticed, which for me was obvious, as this is what they're putting out for you to focus on. They want you to hate on this. They want you to have this as the focus, so they can call you the ists and the phobes and the whatnot.
That makes sense.
And not focus on the mediocre story.
Well, I mean, in a way, I find that they kind of go hand in hand. Because it's like, I have yet to really see one of these, like, books that has, like, really bad, or, like, repellent looking artwork characters. I have yet to see one that has like a story that's just so good. Like,
No, but I've seen it the other way around though. And there was this what was it? It was a Gotham High or something like that.
oh god.
The artwork was actually was actually kind of good. I will give them credit on that. The artwork, especially in comparison to I'm Not Starfire, it was actually pretty decent. The story itself was crap.
Yes.
But
yes.
it didn't have. But since it didn't have the easy as easy of a target, a lot of people didn't pick it up and didn't rant on it the same way they did this one because of the very large elephant in the room.
Well, a couple of my favorite YouTubers actually have like they've read through the book like on their streams, like playing the characters and stuff, and wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, writers who don't care about the IP itself, don't care about the story or what it means. They focus on the most surface level aesthetics.
And a lot of the time it self-inserts.
Yes. Because like the way Selena Kyle was portrayed in that book, that's not Selena Kyle.
Yeah, we're going to make Bruce Asian. No.
At the very least, he kind of acted like Bruce Wayne, but he wasn't as smart.
Yeah. Which again, that's not Bruce.
And they made Joker into just, you know, hey, I'm poor and I come from a broken family.
Yeah.
Hey, did you know that I'm poor and I come from a broken family? Did I mention that I'm poor and I come from a broken family?
Yeah, and I'm rich because I'm Asian.
Yeah.
No.
And Martha Wayne was the secret behind Wayne Industries, don't you know? That darn Thomas Wayne taking credit for things he didn't do.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the thing that I found most repellent about that book was just Selena Kyle. Like the cheesy narration that they gave her, and the fact that she is playing with both Joker and Batman and ultimately screws them both over the way she did. Like, it didn't feel like I was watching Catwoman.
Well, you weren't. I mean...
I felt like I was watching the author try to say she was smarter than Batman. I miss the days of like when things were bad, but they were classically bad. They were inoffensively bad.
Oh, they were bad to the point where it actually became entertaining, you know, like Sharknado. I mean, if you're gonna go that route, you know, go full on in.
Like, I recently, like, this is something I'm gonna be doing for my channel at some point soon. I found out about this show. I never knew about this until recently. This is a Mortal Kombat TV show that was on in the 90s.
Is that the one that had Michael Jai White as Jax?
I don't think so, because this is like, it's a prequel to the main storyline. It's about Kung Lao and a couple of his friends in like the first Mortal Kombat tournament and the aftermath.
Okay,
And
I'm intrigued because no, I do not remember that.
the story idea is really cool, like, but from every image I've seen, this looks so cheaply done and so cheesy and so like, you know, I'm looking at all the women are wearing like bikinis cut things, and
Okay,
it's got that.
To be fair, we did not have the graphics that back in the 90s that we do now.
Oh, I know, but like there's certain things like it's got that it makes me think this is like the Asian version of Walker Texas Ranger. That's the vibe I'm getting. And I freaking love it. And I want to figure out how to review this without getting copyright struck.
Other than going episode by episode and talking about it, maybe holding up some pictures, it not actually. I don't know, because I admit I'm not a reviewer. I've tried it a few times, but I don't
It's
have that
like
in me.
I can't keep track of freaking not Netflix. I've freaking YouTube's rules when it comes to like, like how much you can show and do you have to
YouTube
have
too. That's the tricky part of doing this. I mean, YouTube is like changing the rules on a daily basis and lets us know after the fact.
yes. And I don't get it. This used to be the free. Oh, and Eva Mendes was in this show at one point. It's incredible.
Wow, must have been late '90s.
Yeah, I think this was like 97,
Okay, that would be why I didn't catch it.
but it only lasted one season. And
And
I
I was doing college at that point and getting like almost no sleep. So no.
I was relatively young at the time. I was
Mhm.
still, I was born in 89, so
Mhm.
I grew up during the 90s. I got to experience the magic during the magical point in my life. Then the Spice Girls broke up and the 90s ended. But I am just like everything about this show, like I have to watch this. It's on HBO Max.
Honestly, there's a lot of '90s shows that like this that are, you know, from if you look at it with today's viewpoint, the effects are going to be absolute trash, and a lot of the times they were. Even back then, we knew what it was, but it was a step above, Batman and Robin walking up the side of the building with the rope. It was a step up from there, but not far.
Well, I think like the thing about the aesthetics, like I think the thing about the lighting that I'm loving is that it's reminding me a lot of Hercules: The Legendary Journeys and Xena.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I'm also getting flashback of the Flash '90s cartoons, right? Live action series with John Wesley Shipp. Which
That's
again,
when
if you guys have not seen that, go back and watch it, because that was the series that directly gave us actually Mark Hamill as the Joker, because they loved
yes.
him as the trickster so much. They're like, you got to do this, you got to play this character.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I do enjoy Mark Hamill's Joker quite a bit.
I mean, between him and Kevin Conroy, they they are directly responsible for like 90% of DC fans today. And I'll even say some Marvel, like superhero genre fans, they are directly responsible for. Because anytime one of them would get the casting call, they would automatically say, "Well, is he in it?" Because they really they played off each other so well. They became they really preferred almost to work with each other.
Oh, nice.
And that was really, that's one of those stories I always loved about the two of them. That they may have been enemies on screen, but they were like friends off screen.
Oh Lordy. but you know, that's what I loved about the Arkham games was the
Mhm.
fact that they brought Kevin Conroy and Luke Skywalker back to play their roles, and it was a more serious, dark version of the story. Like they actually had guns and people killing each other and stuff, and
Yeah. I mean, anytime you got the two of them together, it was guaranteed to be an iconic story. I
hell
saw
yeah.
recently this clip of Kevin Conroy and his group reading the ending scene, the ending bit from The Dark Knight, like where they just killed off Harvey
I
Dent.
saw that.
Yes. I'm like, I want a whole movie of that.
They wasted the
Take,
they
take,
wasted
take,
the
take out
opportunity.
Christian Bale's voice and just do Kevin Conroy over top of every one of his lines.
Oh god, they
So much
wasted an
better.
opportunity on the CW. They did a big crossover event where they brought
Yeah.
in Kevin Conroy to play a live action Bruce Wayne, and they made him a psycho that gets killed off within like
And
2
I
minutes.
will. And yeah, the Crisis on Infinite Earths. That one, as a really long fan, that one was hard for me. And I admit I stopped watching Batwoman after that.
Oh, Batwoman.
That was a
Don't.
crash. It takes a lot for me to say anything superhero related is trash. That's trash.
Yes. I really enjoyed the first few seasons of Arrow and the first few seasons of The Flash.
Honestly, I enjoyed Arrow pretty much all the way through. There was like maybe one season I struggled with. But and of course they gave us like Michael Jai White as Bronze Tiger, which yes, that was a beautiful casting. To the point they actually he became so good connected with that role they brought him into an animated version.
Oh wow.
Batman Soul of the Dragon, excellent animated DC movie. And again, he voices Bronze Tiger in that one as well. And I believe it was Kevin Conroy as Batman. Of course, I might be wrong on that. And I'm still
nice.
waiting for the sequel to that movie.
So far, I haven't seen many animated DC movies. Like, I think I saw superhero stuff like when I was younger, but I can't even remember.
Oh no, the
But
DC animated universe is vastly superior to their live action stuff.
yeah, I can
There is
imagine.
that consistent storyline across the board with a lot of them, and it really, that's the kind of stuff I really highly recommend is the animated movies, because they don't approach it like Saturday morning cartoons. You can get some really hardcore gory stuff in there.
Well, I did watch the Killing Joke animation adaptation, and I was not happy with it.
Honestly, a lot of people weren't happy with that one. That my co-host, that's one of those movies we don't talk about around him.
I
My
the
normally sweet mild mannered co-host will go on to a full rant about that movie.
I can see why. I
Yeah,
I I just randomly picked it out because I remembered the comic, and I was just like, oh, I wonder how I wonder how it translates to the animation. And yeah, like 2/3 of it was Barbara Gordon being
same.
dismissed by Batman,
Mm-hmm.
and then them having sex, which
Yeah,
was
was
not the dynamic I was
a weird
envisioning.
moment. That was a moment that really upset a lot of people.
Yeah, because it was always like the father figure kind of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, it just felt dirty.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe most of that movie.
And then like yeah, and then they only spend the last third of the movie on the Joker.
Yeah.
It's like,
No,
really?
setting that aside, like the Justice League movies, a lot of the other Batman movies that are not that one. Uh, what was the one? Justice League Doom. That's one I will always be a fan of.
Hell yeah.
Because I'm not sure how much I can go into spoiler territory when it comes to that.
I don't mind.
The Justice League characters, the individual members, start getting it, coming under fire with stuff that is almost weaknesses to them. Like Flash gets a bomb attached to him that if he slows down, it'll explode. Wonder Woman gets drugged, and she's seeing Cheetah everywhere. And it turns out that they got this stuff, and this is semi-spoiler, so fair enough. What they're all getting attacked with is stuff that came from Batman.
I think I vaguely know a little bit about that part.
Yeah, there are enough clips floating around on YouTube, but the movie itself, it's one of my all-time favorites, and it's got some of my favorite lines in it.
Oh hell yeah.
And that is not a short list for me to grab from.
Well, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, like at the end of the movie, it's definitely got one of my top 10 lines of all time. Probably top 5 easily.
Because yeah, I do know that Batman had pretty much all of the weaknesses of the Justice League. Like he had them as like
Batman,
contingency plans.
Yes. And somebody got their hands on his contingency plans and messed with them.
That makes sense.
Yeah. That's the semi-spoiler territory. And of course, my favorite line is towards the end of the movie, was when they confront him over having these contingency plans.
Okay.
Because it's such a perfect Bruce Wayne Batman response. And it's almost a common sense one too. And yeah, definitely go back, watch it. Hell, let me know what you think afterwards. Because
absolutely,
that is definitely one of those, and that leads into so many of the DC animated universe Justice League movies as well. Like any of them are just fantastic. I won't lie, Dark Apocalypse is hard to watch. It was hard, but it's loved. It is a really good movie. Apocalypse War and Dark Apocalypse. It's just hard for me to watch because I love these characters and they get decimated.
Oh Lord.
But of course you've got Matt Ryan in these movies playing Constantine. You've got a lot of really fantastic iconic voices when the stories are done so beautifully.
Hell yeah. But wouldn't you rather a book about Joker getting pregnant and about Batman not being around? And
again, I see this stuff as troll jobs.
Wouldn't you prefer to see his cousin put on the suit and claim that she's better than him while making a bunch of amateur mistakes? Isn't that more inclusive?
I look a lot at this attempts at inclusion as like the early steps of somebody trying to walk. you're trying, and I applaud you for trying. But this isn't how you go about it. And we are going to look at this coming down, like down the road. Like this is initial steps, and I recognize this. But this is also, we're going to look back at a lot of this stuff in the same way that we look back at, you know, some of those scenes like the neighbor in Breakfast at Tiffany's. And other stuff
I
that
never
we
saw it.
Her name is Asian. But
Wait, what?
in the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, her neighbor is supposed to be Chinese, but the actor that plays him is not. And there's
Ew.
yeah, but that was the 60s. And so often you look back, you gotta look back at this stuff and understand that was a different time. And we have learned a lot from that. And that's exactly what we're going to, down the road, we're going to be looking at all of this stuff too.
I can see that point of view. I just think, I just see a lot of it as kind of regression. It's like because it seemed like writing and every, you know, story cohesion, it's like things were reaching a sophisticated point, and it's like we've kind of gone back downhill where it's like basic story structure kind of eludes a lot of these new products.
Yeah.
If I'm not being too vague. But, you know, it is about that time for us to sign off for the evening. But before we do, I wanted to show you this masterpiece. This is a totally unique TV show from the 90s.
I love the name. It's like iconic 90s.
It's not like anything you've ever seen before.
It sounds
Not
like everything I've seen in the 90s. I love it.
It has nothing to do with the Ninja Turtles. It has nothing to do with the Power Rangers. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, it's so many things. Like there was Biker Mice from Mars. There was so many stories that were like spin-offs of, and I tattooed teenagers. What is it? I you will have to send me tattooed teenage alien fighters from Beverly Hills. I am going to have to look this up because this sounds so 90s that it's going to like outdo Saved by the Bell, and I love it.
Oh, I mean, this photo alone, like what this kid is wearing right here, like
I love
that's it. Oh god,
it almost looks Dawson Creek. I love it.
It's got nothing to do with Power Rangers. I don't know what you're talking about. But a buddy of mine, when I brought up Mortal Kombat Conquest, he showed me this, and I was like, oh my god, this is golden. And yeah, it's got 40 episodes. And I gotta go over this for the channel too. I have to.
Yeah, that looks like too much fun. It's going to be pure cheese, so you know, take a lactose pill beforehand. But
the cringier, the better.
Right?
That's why I watched Walker Texas Ranger. That's the whole reason. It's so bad, it's good. And that was the thing. Like,
I've not seen the newer Walker Texas Ranger, and I feel bad saying that as a Supernatural fan.
I don't want to watch the remake because the remake definitely bled out most of the original badness and gave it more new age badness.
Like I love Jared, but I was never really a big Walker Texas Ranger fan to start with. So
Well, it's again like it's a show that's like it's written by the most one-dimensional Republican ever.
mhm.
That's the best way I can describe it. It's like your villains are pure evil, your law enforcement are pure good. You know, it's as straightforward as it gets. Walker is just this immortal frickin' kung fu master. And he trains other Texas Rangers to be fighters, and it's beautiful, it's brilliant. But yeah, this has been a very fun and interesting talk. And you were totally right. You have a very soothing voice. It gets me very mellow.
I have heard that many times, and I don't get it, but I try to lean into it.
So yeah, you are welcome back anytime that you want to come on. And where can we all find you?
Here on YouTube, you can actually find me, of course, every Saturday morning, usually around 10:30 Eastern, so that would be 9 your time. 7:30 Pacific, and that I always keep the Pacific in mind because I've got a heavy California fan base. You can find me on Momma Bear Art Doll here on YouTube, and of course, that's Momma Bear on Twitter and Momma Bear Doll on Instagram, which is where most of my pictures wind up going.
Nice. And I am, of course, Ben, aka the Fuse Box. You can find me on Twitter at Knights Outlaw with an N, not a K. Also on Instagram at Outlaw Knights. And you can find me on Facebook under my real name, Ben Fuselier, Fuselier. And yeah, I will be back Saturday evening, I believe, around 6 p.m. Central. I'm going to be interviewing Agent Zero Studios, talking about his latest project coming up.
Nice.
And hopefully I'm going to have more video game playthroughs and reviews up soon. I've been a little bad about it this year. I've been kind of dragging my heels. But I'm going to do it. It's going to get done. So yeah, if you like anything we had to say, go ahead and hit the like button. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Be sure to hit the bell for notifications. Hell, if you didn't like anything we had to say, go ahead and hit the dislike button because it freaking feeds me either way. I thrive off of both your love and your hate. Thank you so much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen, and I will talk to you all later.